Hangout podcast where three bearded film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time. My name is Luke Kondo with Kate. I'm joined by my regular co-hosts, Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello, everybody.
Oh!
I
did raise my hand as if to allow Andy to go first.
Oh, okay. This wasn't a Godzilla versus Kong situation.
No, could have been awkward, but it was dealt with, like with grace, if anything. And Mr. Ben Errington.
People's faces.
So right at the end of the episode, and Ben Errington.
And Ben Errington. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You listened to this whole episode thinking it was two guys. No, it's three.
How's everybody doing? All right?
Yeah.
Got drinks? All got hats? No, Andy's gone.
No hats.
He's not follically challenged. He needs to. I've got a Jules mug, which is quite nice. I can pretend.
That is good though.
Drinking seawater. No, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Did everybody have a enjoyable Easter break?
A lovely time.
Yeah, I watched a lot of films. I almost couldn't stop myself. I was waking up early to watch films, staying up late to watch films. I should have watched more than I did, if anything.
Yeah. I hope the what I've been watching section is dozens of films long.
It's not.
I will be. Did anybody have a chocolate treat? Did anybody see a zombie Jesus milling about at any point?
Yes.
Oh, both.
Both. Chocolate treat.
Chocolate treat. I had a couple of chocolate treats. It's got to be done. It's what Jesus would have wanted.
It's one of his commandments, the 11th one.
Have a
And
bit
Ben
of chocolate, mate. And Ben Errington. That's correct. I'm still here, unfortunately. What we got? Do you want me to dive straight into horror news?
Yeah, man. Got some news.
Yeah,
for
man.
us?
Come on, let's do that. Let's do it. So Amazon is remaking the horror movie Goodnight Mommy with Naomi Watts in the leading role.
I feel like that's already happened, hasn't it? Naomi Watts, leading role. Goodnight Mummy.
Good night.
Which one's
Maybe
Goodnight
that's
Mummy? Is that with the bandages?
Goodnight Mummy's the one with the bandages and the twin boys, isn't it? Is it Swedish? Something like that? Have I? Austrian, sorry. Austrian. So yeah. I think the film Goodnight Mommy, I don't know if you guys have seen that, but I think it's pretty good. A lot of people consider it like somewhat of a modern classic. I thought it was just all right. But yeah, Naomi Watts and weird, creepy little kid. She's done that in the Ring remake. Why not go and do it in the Ring 2 was the one with her son in it, wasn't it? Yeah. Why not do it with this movie? I mean, we don't necessarily need a remake, but yeah, go on.
Well, if she does this now, Ben, so she's done The Ring, one creepy kid. This film, two creepy kids.
Yeah.
She's building up to doing like a Village of the Damned remake, I guess.
That's true.
And then you'd be able to have the Naomi Watts versus Creepy Kids trilogy.
I would pay some money for that.
Imagine the little DVD box set. Nothing fancy, just like a cardboard wraparound that you can get in your local supermarket.
Oh, talking of DVD box sets, it's also fascinating on Twitter this week. Somebody on Twitter, can't remember what their name is, I'll try and find it out if anyone's interested. They seem to have every edition of Shaun of the Dead on DVD or DVD box set or Blu-ray. It's literally like 30 things. They had it all piled up, all the various editions that have been released, and they seem to own every single one. And what was quite fascinating is seeing what movies it had been paired with, like those DVD double sets. So obviously the Cornetto trilogy is an obvious one to do. That makes sense. That's fine. But other ones, it's like Shaun. Other ones, it's like Shaun of the Dead and Land of the Dead, which is like, okay, I see what you did there, but at the same
Pegg and
time,
Edgar Wright are in Land of the Dead, aren't they?
Okay, but still, okay, that makes more sense. But still, that's kind of mad, isn't it? Because you're like, if you like one of those films, doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna appreciate the other. If you don't know what the other one is and you've bought two. That's probably not the best example. There were much better examples of that. But I just thought it was fascinating. Like, I don't think I've seen somebody collect something like that. Like every single edition of something.
It's amazing there's so many. I mean, 2004, I imagine. Pretty soon after something like that.
2004, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it has been quite a while, but still, most films don't get released 30 times in 30 different flavors.
Yeah, I mean, it probably caught obviously it caught the tail end of DVD. Well, I say tail end, but like the hype
Nose
of
end.
DVD,
The heyday,
nose end.
halcyon days of DVD.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. And then Blu-ray as well, so it was probably ripe for the pick. And I can't find the image
Dead
now.
as well. It's one of those that I think because it crossed all those genres, because it was a horror film, because it was a comedy film, because it was like, I bet it's like prime like Father's Day present as well and things like that. Like it's going to be in all those little. It's day before Father's Day, isn't it? And you've forgotten to get your dad something. One DVD seems like low effort, so get him a nice double pack. Off the top of your head, then, guys, what is the worst/best pairing that you would put Shaun of the Dead with? If you had one box set, you're allowed to take Shaun of the Dead and
Shaun of the Dead.
I mean, they have to be like linked in some way or another. I would probably say the worst box set to put would be Run Fat Boy Run. No, I enjoy that film. It needs to be Simon Pegg, but kind of a shit film. So How to Lose Friends and Alienate People, which is just not a good film.
That's probably the worst one. I mean, the best one would just be Hot Fuzz, because as much as The World's End is all right, I think those two films encapsulate everything that's great about Edgar Wright.
They're so good. I was just looking at someone posted a GIF earlier. It's from Hot Fuzz, and it's Simon Pegg talking to someone off camera, and then they're holding a cake next to his head, and he's trying to talk, and his eyes just like casually goes and goes, "No thanks," and then back to the front. It's so well like choreographed and put together on the scene, and also the bit I always think of the Andes. You go off camera and then back on.
Yeah, that's the great thing.
Yeah, so
I like the Andes moment when he gets bolognese in his face. Don't worry, Andy, it's just bolognese. That sticks with me.
And the trio of Hot Fuzz moments, my particular favourite part is with Jim Broadbent saying, "He had one thing you don't have, though. A great big bushy beard."
And then they see the great big bushy beard dead later on, don't they?
Yeah.
I'll try and find this image though of this Twitter collector guy. Just because I think it's quite fascinating to look at. So I'll find that and I'll send that to you guys afterwards.
In the meantime, listening, if you're on the Facebook page or on the socials, send in your worst DVD pairings.
Yeah, because it was a weird thing, wasn't it? Like the double box set, like it was almost like a little money saving thing to get together.
Deep Blue Sea and SWAT, things like that.
Just because Samuel Jackson's in both.
And there's a custom song at the end.
Oh.
The custom song at the end of SWAT is about Samuel L. Jackson, the actor, not the character from the film.
What?
I think that's the way I watched most of the martial arts movies I watched growing up. They were kind of all bundled in together, a lot of the shit ones, with like Double Team, all the Jean-Claude Van Damme ones bundled into one DVD or something.
I feel like horror movies like slashers and stuff as well, just like random to teen slashers. It's a good like gateway to other films, I suppose. For
Cherry Falls and Friday the 13th Part 4 together at last.
The Dream Team. And I guess moving on from Goodnight Mommy as a remake, don't know why I keep saying it like that. Evil Dead, Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead turned 8 years old today, and as he does sort of every year, he shared some more behind the scenes photos, including the image of all the characters looking down the well and how they did the setup for that. That's pretty cool. I don't know if you saw Bruce Campbell's April Fool's.
The Doctor Strange script leak.
Yeah. So he did like a little Doctor Strange. I mean, it's kind of perfect, you know. I mean, I know.
I think they should put that in the film.
Yeah, it feels like it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
Because it is Sam Raimi, but pretty fascinating. I saw some fan art as well, pitting the two characters together. Did you see this, Andy? That's all.
Yeah, the Bruce Campbell Doctor Strange stuff.
Yeah. So Doctor Strange randomly, I guess there's some sort of there's obviously in the multiverse of madness, there's some jumping between multiverses, and Doctor Strange turns up in outside a cabin in the woods, and then out comes disheveled man with a chainsaw for a hand, and they have a little interaction. Very nice, very cool.
I would kind of like that. You speaking about it being 8 years old, my memories failed me. You guys done an episode on the Evil Dead remake?
No,
Haven't we?
no, don't think so. So we've done Evil Dead. We've done The Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2.
But not Army of Darkness or the remake.
But not Army of Darkness or the remake. No, I don't think so. Anyway.
You sure?
But that right? They're both brilliant. They're both so good.
Yeah, they are really good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but
just Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2.
I kind of like that when I keep thinking, oh, we haven't done that, because it just makes you think this podcast will last forever.
Yeah, we'll be here forever. So
there's never going to be a day where we go, oh, we've only gone and watched all the horror.
We've completed it.
Platinum.
Completed it. Although, I mean, I've seen so much more than I probably would have if I hadn't been doing a horror movie podcast.
Yeah, I think I really enjoy having film projects. If you set aside, say, I'm going to watch all these things, all by this director, or like I'm doing like a post-apocalyptic one, or like us, we're doing this podcast, so there's always something to watch. Just having that kind of project, it makes you press play on the things that you maybe would be slightly averse to. Like The Mummy that we did, which wasn't amazing, but I'm so glad we watched it. Like, it really kind of forces you to
Shin Godzilla.
Widen your space. Yeah, Shin Godzilla. I don't know if I would have pushed play on it.
Yeah, I'd heard quite a lot about it. I'd seen some screenshots. Andy, you've seen it before, hadn't you?
Yeah. I really like it. We'll get into it, but yeah, it's an odd one.
Yeah, so I know what you mean. There's certain things I wouldn't have watched, and now we've got so many episodes. Like, this is episode 174. I feel like I feel like I can just, when film Twitters having any sort of discussion about something, I feel like there's a horror hanger episode to post a link to. I mean, just annoying people, yeah, but you know what I mean, like going, oh yeah, I've got some opinions on that. Here's a 2-hour episode of me chatting about it. Sorry.
Yeah. You're basically, we like all, and I've only done a fraction of the episodes with you guys that you've done, but it's nice to have those things in the chat. Who are you to talk about these? Well, I'll tell you, shiny nails when you joke it. I'll tell you why I am to talk about this.
You like horror films, don't you? Yeah, I do. There's a YouTube playlist of 174 episodes of me talking about horror movies. Oh, all right.
You could probably sit there for a week back to back and not have heard half of what I've got to say about horror movies, mate. So get in the fucking bin.
Well, a little while ago, we did work out how many hours worth of podcasts we'd done, but that was a while ago, so maybe we're due a recount.
I have no idea how to do it now, though, because it's not 1 hour per episode.
Because we've got a lovely YouTube playlist, I think there's a website or an algorithm where you could just tot up all the hours for that.
Nice.
Impressed? Yes, you are.
Lovely metadata.
The only other bit of news I've got is that HBO's adaptation of The Last of Us starts filming this July. I kind of thought maybe we'd get it earlier than that, but it's due to wrap 8th of June 2022, so it might be a little while now until we
Who's making
get it.
That? Who's producing that one? Amazon?
No, so it's on HBO.
HBO. I remember I was listening to an interview with one of the writers who works on the Teen Titans TV show, and he said they will start filming before everything's done. So like they'll still be writing the scripts, and they'll already be filming the episodes. So I think it might be a lot quicker to turn it around than we think. I mean, it might still be next year.
You've got to try and do these things fast, I think, as well, while they're super,
hot.
Well, they're super hot, right? Because the alternative is you get, and we talked about some of these last week, if you let things go a bit cold, you get a 302 or the second Sin City that were just about 5-10 years later than they would have been ideally. Or we'll see how Uncharted comes out, right? Because it feels like, well, famously, originally wasn't it going to be Mark Wahlberg, was going to be Nathan Drake, but he has aged out of that role and become like his father figure instead. Yeah,
he's become silly. Yeah. It's pretty nuts. Yeah, should be good there. I'll look forward to that, no matter what.
I'm looking forward to watching it.
So I guess everybody's seen. Moving swiftly on to what you've been watching. We've all seen Godzilla vs Kong, which is kind of the reason why we decided to do a Godzilla movie on this episode.
I've seen it twice. I know you've seen it twice, Benjamin.
Yep. I'm kind of glad I saw it twice because there were definitely a few things that I probably didn't appreciate as much the first time round, or maybe even things I kind of missed. And it does kind of shine a light on the things you didn't like so much. But for the most part, I think it was great.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to get into too much spoilers for people. But the second time, I really appreciated the music. Like, there's a lot of like kind of crazy synthy stuff, like sci-fi synth stuff going on, and it's much. It kind of adds to the flavor of the. I mean, I'd not seen the other MonsterVerse movies apart from Kong Skull Island. This feels quite tonally similar to Kong Skull Island, more so than the others now that I've seen them. It's tonally insane. It feels more comic booky than a lot of comic book movies in some ways.
You wouldn't think it was a weird departure, particularly your Marvel guys, if they turned up in a Kong versus Godzilla film. I think the way they move along, the way they hop between locations.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it was strange if those things happened to be in the same setting. And I really agree with what you say as well about the music, Luke. I think it gives both of the characters have got like quite a unique theming about them. Like I think Kong has a lot of like the era specific music to the one where Kong Skull Island was set in. So it's got all of that, and particular key scenes with Kong, it has that backtrack to it. And then the Godzilla has like the instrumental, like Godzilla March theme music that comes in whenever he's.
I watched. There's a couple of really insightful, quite long videos on YouTube of the guy Junkie XL.
He did the Batman. I mean, no, not the Batman. He did the
Justice League
stuff. Yeah.
And he kind of like breaks down. It's like a couple of hours worth of him talking about the score and breaking it down. It's really, really interesting. So I recommend that if you like the music. It was all kind of orchestral stuff, so I don't know what his involvement was with the synthy stuff, especially like in the I almost spoiled something then. Especially in a certain area of the film, it's very synthy, and that kind of lent to the kind of felt like this adventure and wonder, and I really liked it.
Now that we mentioned Junkie XL and all these other things, I'm kind of realizing that his style is a bit of everything. Like he seems to have like the orchestral stuff, even have like heavy kind of rock stuff going on at times, and then there's synthy stuff as well, which I quite enjoy. But, sorry, Andy.
He's becoming like the go-to guy for like blockbusters right now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the music was really good. I was going to say, without going into spoilers with results and so on, whose side were you on going in? Because they very specifically in the marketing said that there was going to be a winner. But who were you cheering for in the movie?
I don't know if I was really. I mean, the film kind of gets framed in one way to kind of make you lean in one character's favor.
Yeah.
But I was kind of still a bit like just in awe of the whole thing, really. Like even like Batman versus Superman. I mean, I do prefer Batman, but I wasn't thinking, smash Superman's face in, he deserves it. I was still like, Superman, give him a break.
Yeah, in both Kong for me this time and Batman in the Batman v Superman, because they feel like the underdogs. Like it definitely frames Kong as. I mean, especially in that. Oh, I don't want to spoil anything. The first confrontation. I don't want to spoil it, but he's out of his element, I guess, is what I'd say.
Yeah.
Also, Kong has like a human face, and he looks like just a very muscly, short-legged, no-shinned man.
Yeah.
He's got a lovely
He's got a beard
now.
Yeah.
He's got quite a shaped beard. Like he's gone to Gone to like a barber's and got himself a shape and a fade.
And I like the way they sort of frame it all with him waking up to the doo-wop music, and he has like a decompression shower scene at the start. Like there's a waterfall, and he sort of presses his hands and puts his head into it.
Yeah.
Like it's a cool thing. So I mean, I just quickly say, so after watching that, I went back and watched Kong Skull Island again, and then I watched Godzilla King of the Monsters. I hadn't seen that one before. I didn't watch the Godzilla one with Bryan Cranston for some reason. I think I don't know. I put off on that for some reason, and then I watched Godzilla vs Kong again. I thought I'd take a sideline, watch Bad Trip, watch something else to sort of get out of the kaiju mindset, and then I watched Shin Godzilla. So it's been a kaiju week.
And you watched the new Suicide Squad trailer, which has also got a kaiju in it.
Oh yeah, it is.
So,
yeah.
It's all happening. I just feel like, I mean, the only other thing I'll say is I preferred this much more to anything else in the MonsterVerse, really. I kind of just felt Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters got bogged down with a lot of unnecessary detail and a lot of human characters. And I mean, Kong Skull Island has got even more human characters. And I really did like that, but I felt like it was missing something. I feel like this film just moves along at a breakneck speed. It's loud, it's colourful. I felt like it's really fun. Sure, there are some leaps in logic, but I think if you just kind of forget...
There's some big leaps in logic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
if
worry
you
about
kind
it.
of just forget that, because, I mean, don't worry about it. It's big, dumb fun. But at the same time, despite being big, dumb fun, because there are plenty of big, dumb fun movies out there that I dislike, it really just felt like it focused on the good things. And even some of the human stories were there's like so much more interest in the ones I think we got previously.
I've got to say, Kong Skull Island, rewatching it, I really enjoyed the human stuff with John C. Reilly. And
I mean that's great. I like.
And there's some real stakes and some peril in it as well, because in Kong Skull Island, there's a large squad of those army guys, and a lot of them get picked off and killed, right, to showcase the danger. And there's quite a bit of a, there's like a Jurassic Park Lost World feeling about it. You're navigating through this island and people are getting done in.
Yeah.
Which, oddly enough, they were the elements of the Peter Jackson's King Kong that I didn't like as much.
Okay.
Mostly because it was freaking so long. But apart from that, I liked that about Kong Skull Island. But I think you're right, and you missed out on the original run of this MonsterVerse Godzilla, right? And I think that was the thing that, of all of them, that suffers the most from the slow pacing of the human characters before anything else can happen.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched Godzilla at this point, I'd say just watch the last fight, and it's because that's where it all comes together, and it's worth it, and that's what you're waiting for.
Who's the big bad guy in that one?
It's these two big monsters called Mutos that stands for something.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, and I know you mentioned Bad Trip, Luke. I saw that too. Did you see that, Andy?
I've not got around to it yet, but from your recommendation, I think I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, I mean, this was something that I wasn't particularly... I'd seen a few little bits of promo for it, but I was a bit like, not quite sure if I'm going to enjoy that. But then I saw a lot of people posting about it on Twitter, so I thought, give it a chance. And I love the Eric Andre show and pretty much anything Eric Andre does anyway. But yeah, so this is like a movie with real life pranks and real life people in it. But again, this is like, in terms of big dumb fun, this is exactly the same, just without kaiju. It's just so like I was belly laughing to the point where I had to pause the film just because I didn't want to miss anything else, because it was just like so over the top. And it's like and it's like it's cringy because you're like, oh my god, it's real people, and how are they going to react? But at the same time, it's just so well done.
If you like the Eric Andre show, but you're like, it's just too mental, and this is like a bit more grounded. But if you know his street pranks that he does, it's basically that, but kind of weaved into a narrative. So the best thing about those pranks is just how insane he gets and the people's genuine reactions of what the ludicrous thing that they're seeing. Like the song at the start, when he breaks into like a musical song. I had that song in my head for ages.
I mean, it says like, oh, from the makers of Jackass and Bad Grandpa. I
Yeah.
think it's directed by the Jackass director guy, actually, because I saw him in the
Okay. Paul
I saw him
Tremblay.
in the credits. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, Eric Andre's a lunatic. Tiffany Haddish is in it as well, and she's like unrecognizable and legitimately terrifying. Every
Yeah.
time she turns up on screen, I'm like, shit, what's gonna happen? But yeah, there's a few particular skits in this which will
Jeff
probably
Tremaine.
stick.
That's the one. Not Jeff Tremblay.
Okay.
Anyways.
Okay. Who's that? I said yeah, but I didn't even know what his name was anyway. So I thought Luke's probably got that right. I'm sure Luke's got that right.
I just say random shit just to see if you'll agree with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. Have you seen Terminator 12? Yeah, but they love it. It ain't even been made yet, mate. I think
It's
I
like
told you
those
this.
things like when you're in the primary school one.
Yeah.
The kid at
think I
my
told
primary
you-
school, I've seen Gremlins 3. His theory was that at the end, the Gremlins are defeated because Gizmo finally cracks the shits and eats them. He was like, "Oh yeah, I've been to America. I saw it over there." I was like, it's the 90s. It was feasible, but
There used to be a guy in the pub next door to my college who'd come in like selling DVDs, and he'd like if you said any film to him that hadn't been made, he'd be like, "Yeah, I'll bring that in next week." I remember it was before Indiana Jones 5 had come out, and we were like, "Oh, have you got Indiana Jones 5?" And he was like, "Oh, I'll get it though. I'll get it next week." "Oh, it hasn't even been made yet, mate." He was like, "I'll get it. I'll get it. I know George Lucas."
Yeah.
Is he involved? Steven Spielberg. He's involved somehow.
They all are.
DVD pub men.
Yeah.
DVD pub man. The pub man in general. Never trust a pub man.
Speaking of like things happening like far too late, I remember going around to my friend's house. This is insane. This is Danny Longton's house.
He's getting another mention.
This is insane. They're around his house, and this would have been like 2005, 2006 something. His dad had bought like a DVD burning station, and he was going to start selling ripped DVDs. But this was like well past the time that was a thing that anybody be
Last
interested
year.
in.
Why don't you get
Yeah.
it on Netflix now, mate? Nah. You want a great. You want this rip? Is someone's video recorded it in the cinema?
Yeah.
X-Men 2.
Not even DVD rips. This is they've converted them into VCDs, so it's across 2 discs.
Yeah. Sorry, Danny.
That's
It was very funny though at the time.
Yeah. Like that. Yeah. I mean, that's all I've really seen this week. I've not been going crazy. Have you seen much else? Or?
Been watching Invincible TV show, which if you're a horror fan,
Oh yeah.
if you're a fan of horror movies and gore and stuff, I would definitely recommend it. What else?
Yes, I saw episode 4, Invincible. I'm
Is it
still
gone
I'm-
off path now?
Off
There's
piece.
some stuff happening that I'm like, I don't remember that stuff.
Well, I've
so
only read the
maybe-
first 2 volumes, so it's already all
Okay.
new stuff.
Yeah.
All the Mars stuff on this week's episode was all brand new to me.
Okay. Yeah. That stuff's all there, but there's some other little bits. Yeah. How are you feeling about it? Because you weren't so keen on the first 2 graphic novels, were you?
No, I mean it wasn't. I wasn't too keen. I was just a bit like, it doesn't seem that. It feels a bit. I think I said it was a bit generic, but now I can see the additional details that are making it less generic, and I think it's a lot more interested now.
Yeah. I think
A lot more potential.
you can already see the way Robert Kirkman tells stories. He just plants so many seeds, and they all like flower in horrific and horrendous ways at some point in the story.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
watching more of it. Definitely.
Cool. What about you, Andy?
Very little, other than just the film of the week and Kong versus Godzilla. Other than that, like, been taking advantage of the fact the weather's been a bit nice and been out and about a little bit. But so plenty to catch up on, but not very much else. Certainly, that's even remotely connected to horror recently. Catching a bit of doing a bit of book editing, watching some Jonathan Creek, but apart from those horrors of murders, and then occasionally thinking, the person that wrote Jonathan Creek definitely is a real comics fan, because there's loads of real subtle comics, and not subtle anymore, but at the time it was written, they would have been obscure comic references. But now things like Black Canary and stuff like that are like fairly top of mind. It's like,
Oh wow. Yeah, he knows.
Nothing
Good
specific.
times.
Just lots of kaiju.
Yeah, just lots of kaiju. And today, this week's film, Shin Godzilla.
What does the Shin mean thematically?
I was gonna look that up, and then I haven't. So talk about
It's
yourself.
the first time I realised that Gojira wasn't a different kaiju. I thought he was, because I've not seen all these Godzilla, especially the old films. And I was like, oh, Gojira must be King Ghidorah's uncle or something. Gojira. But no, that's just the Japanese way of saying.
Well, it's
Godzilla.
directed by Shinji Higuchi.
Oh yeah.
Maybe he's gone. Oh, it's directed by two people actually.
Named it after himself.
Who was Godzuki? Was he like a little baby one?
Godzuki was the animated like son of God. Well, I think he was meant to be like his nephew or something in the Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Yeah, and he's like a little tiny baby flying Godzilla.
I found a little
but
picture of him.
He's basically the Scrappy-Doo of Hanna-Barbera Godzilla cartoons.
Godzuki.
Here you go. Shin Godzilla, Shin Gojira was chosen for the film because variety of meanings. It conveys either new, true, or God.
Well, that works on all three levels.
Yeah. Complicated language. More complicated than I can possibly learn from this quick Google search.
Godzuki.
There's a little picture of Godzuki I've just sent you in the chat.
Yeah,
I used to watch the cartoon. Mostly he was the one that would be, that's not Godzuki. That's the
son of Godzilla.
That's the son of Godzilla, or Minilla, I think he's sometimes called.
Well, it's just saved as on Google. When I searched Godzuki, he came up, and the image is tagged as ugly fat noob. Give him a break. Give Godzuki a little break.
Image though, it looks like a sea lion or something.
I don't have it on. I'm going to go on my phone here, but I'll hold up Godzuki. Look at him getting a telling. Godzilla there. He's like, no.
Oh yeah.
That's also Pete's Magic Dragon, I think.
Yeah, it is.
They're similar. Same, there he is again. Look.
Godzuki's got wings. Why has Godzuki got wings and Godzilla not got wings?
Is Godzilla male or female or asexual as he was in the original? The original Godzilla.
They always refer to Godzilla as a he.
Yeah.
But if you really want to make people angry on Twitter, by all means say that they're. You'll be full of followers of people going at you because it's like thinking that technically it's like a legendary Pokemon and they're technically genderless.
Yeah. Okay.
Technically genderless Godzilla. Right, here we go. So what is it? Shin Godzilla is a 2016 Japanese kaiju film directed by Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi. Well, it's a really brief synopsis here. Japan is plunged into chaos upon the appearance of a giant monster.
It's very on point, though.
That's what it does.
Has it at 6.8 Rotten Tomatoes. Critic score is a whopping 86%. The audience score, slightly more reserved, 74%. Letterboxd has it at 3.8, which is pretty good for a Letterboxd score. Foggy over on Letterboxd says wasn't really paying attention, not enough shins, 5 stars. So he was liked it, I think.
What?
Chloe, but I want to die, half a star. She wasn't feeling it.
Oh.
It must be shit Godzilla, says Tuna Han Tuna. The worst CGI ever, half a star. And last one, Dylan Battersby. But this to me is exactly what a Godzilla film should be. 5 stars. So
Mixed,
yeah, mixed bag.
I mean, the CGI wasn't that bad.
No,
some bits were better than others, but for the most part, it looked.
It's just so
good.
With Japanese films, there's a different stylistic thing happening. The CGI in this looks a lot like the CGI in a lot of Japanese films, recent films anyway. But also, I don't think they know what color grading is in Japan. They don't seem to color grade films in the same way that we do in the Western world. Like we have like whole
Palettes.
engineers, yeah, exactly. It's like a whole art form in itself. But all Japanese films kind of look similar. They kind of have that like what's the word? It's like raw video footage, lag footage. I think. Yeah.
I know what you mean. It almost made this feel like a bit like a documentary.
Yeah, well, it kind of worked in some ways for this.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, Andy, you mentioned before that we might not be able to do a review / discussion of this in the usual format, just because obviously in terms of plot, I mean, it's quite obviously there's a plot, but in terms of
it's quite pacey. It moves with a lot of the discussion so fast.
Very pacey. Also, whether you're dubbed or subbed, you kind of need to be paying attention. Like,
yeah, which one did you? What did you go for?
So I went for
subbed.
Yeah, I tend to always go subbed.
Yeah, I went the same. This is one of these I even own on old school physical media, and in the DVD of Shin Godzilla, you get 2 discs, and you get the original Japanese cut, but you get like a US release as well. So you get the choice. I haven't actually ever put the other one in to see if it's automatically dubbed into.
So you watched the Japanese one,
English, but I watched the original cut for today. I think I might experiment with the other one a little bit later.
Yeah, so obviously this is kind of like Godzilla turns up, but it's basically like a hyper realistic government reaction and subsequent fight back against
kind of
Godzilla.
The fallout and how it all responds. And I don't know about you guys, I was watching this thinking, imagine if this happened here, especially after the results of what last year was like with COVID and so on. Imagine if we were just sitting here in Bristol, Ben, and then out of the bay, a little bit of water that isn't technically the sea, that's between, Bristol and Wales, outside
Bristol
Western.
Channel.
Yeah, if Godzilla just rocked up in there and then came out, we'd be all long dead before the Prime Minister had finished prattling on in Greek on the TV.
If Godzilla rocked out and just went to trash Western Supermare, I think probably for the best. No, I'm obviously joking. I would not like that to happen. I mean, it smashed the Western Supermare Grand Pier to bits, although that caught on fire a number of years ago anyway, so it's used to it, it's used to it. But yeah, I did think that, and maybe it wasn't quite. I said hyper realistic, but maybe it wasn't entirely realistic of how governments would work in terms of making decisions, definitive decisions, quickly. There didn't seem to be too much faffing about, As soon as people decided this is the course of action we're going to take, they did. So that was quite impressive. But it did make me think: do governments work like this, or is there a lot of just infighting and disagreement? And
well, I don't know. I've never been in Japanese government or had to deal with them, but like there were bits of it that did kind of ring very true as to how I have seen things operate in Japan. Have you guys ever been?
No.
Oh, I've never been to Japan.
I've been a couple of times. Once when we lived over in Korea, so obviously it was pretty close. We went a couple of times while we were over there anyway. And then we went 2019 when the rugby was on, and this is what reminded me of it. So we were there in Tokyo when there was that huge typhoon. There was like a huge typhoon. There was an earthquake that hit on the same day. So really serious things that were going on. But it's a country of like extreme organization. So there are little things that really strike me. I think you mentioned, Ben, that there are some things that are just actual footage. And I wouldn't be surprised in some cases, because there's those bits. There's a little bit later on in the film when they're managing an evacuation. There's these little vehicles that are driving around with speakers that are giving announcements to people. And I saw those in the run-up. So the typhoon was due to hit the next morning.
Wow.
And there were literally these cars going around the streets, and everyone was just finishing up their business. Everyone was just doing things. but the people were coming around the streets giving people like announcements of what they needed to do and everything like that to be safe. And then there was this typhoon, like I say, an earthquake hit during the day. We didn't know until we looked that there'd been an earthquake, but just felt like things are shaking, and we realised that it wasn't just like someone was knocking the table or something. There was an earthquake happening.
Oh, shit.
So it was a terrible, terrible storm that was going on all day. So it really hit the city where we were at about I think it was like 8 o'clock in the morning it came. We'd been out very briefly just before it started, before we went in, and we saw, the famous like Shinjuku crossing with all the different zebra crossings going the different ways. I have a video on my phone. I'll send it to you guys of us just there on the morning this typhoon was going to hit, and there was basically this thing that's usually so busy had us and a couple of other stupid foreigners that were out there to have a look at it. Otherwise, no people at all, completely abandoned. Everything is closed up. So then we went inside. There's a terrible rainstorm for the night before. And then the next morning is exactly like in this film, where some terrible things happen. There's been loads of damage to loads of places. But the next morning, almost everything is normal. And it's the same in this film, where Godzilla attacks and then he goes back into the sea. And then the next day, it's like people are cleaning up and there's people out for their morning runs and the trains are running again. And it was exactly the same the following morning. So the storm broke late that evening on the first night. And we went out the next morning for a run in this park. And literally there was the old fella there just sweeping up the leaves that were the last of the debris. And it was bag all that up. And it is so well organized. Yeah, he was literally like, just put this rubbish away.
Just another Godzilla attack. We can't let life grind to a halt with these Godzilla attacks. Okay.
Yeah. So it struck me as like maybe obviously Godzilla's a bigger deal than a typhoon, I guess, but it did strike me that I think that might be just the way their systems work for this type of disaster.
The UK, it would take 5 years to get back to normal. There would be a lot of people out there not believing it and just go, no. I'm going to go out and have a look for myself. Squash.
You get Godzilla'd. But yeah, I guess you could almost cut the film into sections. It would be almost impossible unless we had extensive notes to really go into each of the things. But I guess you could break it down by Godzilla attack, right? So the beginning one, it starts like within 5 minutes, right?
So there's a boat out in the water. For some reason, it's unmanned and they're talking about it and having a meeting about it. And then our main guy, I don't know his name.
His name is
Rando
Yaguchi.
Rando Yaguchi.
Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary. So obviously it's hard to do a character breakdown because there's so many people involved in this. But obviously there is the Prime Minister. There's like an aide to the Prime Minister. Then there's a team of like the ministers who are all the immediate team of the Prime Minister. Army dudes and ladies. And
then there's like a volunteer group of experts that form later, like the
volunteer
self-defense force, like the disaster recovery group.
Yeah. And then there's Kyoko, who I think is she's Japanese, but she's a connection to the United States.
I didn't have subtitles on, even when she's speaking English, I'd need subtitles on because
she flips so fast in language. Yeah. I saw the actress was saying, so Satomi Ishihara, who's the actress that plays Kyoko, like when she got the part, I read a quick bit of a snippet that said like she despaired because she had to flip languages so quickly, like mid-scene in character. It must have been so hard.
She's supposed to be.
She is American.
Fluent with like the Americans, like she's supposed to be talking to Americans, and like she's over in Japan.
Yeah,
bridging the gap.
There are some American characters, just occasionally, aren't they, who turn up and speak nothing but English, and you're like, all right, mate.
And then there's
Japanese
like
characters
Angela
all speak
Merkel type
English too,
people as well.
What was that?
Yeah, German.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a lot of it is just meetings, a lot of meetings of like how to deal with certain things. But this is another thing that moves at breakneck speed. You feel like you're kind of along for the ride. of how quickly they need to react to certain things happening.
And how did you take those meetings? I'm not sure. Do you feel it's intentionally funny, or does it just come up? Because I found it quite funny.
I think it was like watching an episode of The Thick of It, and
Yeah.
I didn't understand what they were talking about. I think I just didn't get the joke. I think it was comedy, but I just was not sure what the joke was.
I definitely felt the thick of it, but at the same time, I thought it's kind of ridiculous how many meetings they're having. But at the same time, I kept thinking, I bet it is like that.
And they're sort of
when
walking down these like the corridors of power, saying, "Okay, there's going to be a meeting in 5 minutes," and then they have this huge briefing and say, "Okay, everyone, let's go to the actual meeting room
Yeah.
where we're going to have the real meeting."
Yeah.
And this is where we have like our Higuchi is coming up with a plan, saying, "Oh, I think like because there's been this vent of steam coming out of the water, and no one knows what it is." And he's saying, "Oh, it could be a creature," and everyone goes, "Oh no, it's not going to be a creature." And he said, "Oh, it is though." And now we're going to go to the meeting, and he says it out loud again. "Oh, it could be a creature though," and everyone goes, "Oh, like don't mess around because these meetings we take minutes of these meetings.
Don't mess around."
He generally says like, "Oh, don't joke because we take minutes of these meetings. And it's going to be on the record that you said that stupid thing." And then seconds later, they put the TV on, and the tail comes out of the water. And it's like,
Well, I do like there are a couple of moments like that where people do say that's impossible, that would never happen, don't be so ridiculous, and they get their comeuppance like immediately, which I kind of thought was quite refreshing to see people have that immediate reaction of going, "Oh my god, I've just made an absolute tit of myself. It is a giant monster after all."
And you feel kind of bad for the Prime Minister, right? Because basically all these people are there and say, "Okay, it could be this, but it's not that, and it could be this, it's not that." So now you have to make a decision, and you've got to make it now. And it
Right
cuts
now.
to this Prime Minister who's always just like,
He's like, "What? He's a what?" I mean, the tail as well. Like, it's not what you would consider the traditional Godzilla tail either, is it? It's kind of like it's sort of bulbous at the end and then a bit spiny, isn't it? Rather than
as
being
well. It feels like the tail is the length of the entire body.
Sometimes I think it was a different kaiju. Like the way it was framed, you see Godzilla and the skyscrapers, and then another giant thing behind him, and it took me a moment to go, "Oh, that's just a tail." Like it's so long and so far away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I liked all the stuff around because this doesn't really come across in any of the other Godzilla stuff I've seen. Is that he's radioactive? Like he is kind of destroying. The longer he's in these places, like he's boiling the water around him as he's coming out. And they talk about how he's irradiating like the landscape as he sort of passes through. So yeah, I don't think we get any of that in
because they work out quite quickly, don't they, that his trail of destruction after his first attack follows the route of was it like new
this is when he's all bug-eyed and he hasn't got his arms yet. Is that right? And he's bleeding out of skills.
This is when he's like just coming along and they get some of the whatever he's gobbing out everywhere. And this is the one where I think this is
the screenshots
Sorry.
In the screenshots where I'd seen him looking like this, I didn't think that was Godzilla. I thought it was like the villain of this film or something else.
Yeah.
Because he's a bug-eyed freak. He's a bug-eyed freak, and I'm like, oh bloody hell! And so as you said, blood all coming out of his gills. He's just a big lumbering around on all fours. Well, his belly really, isn't he? Causing a hell of a lot of damage, and he's lumbering, but he seems like just a bit of an idiot, just smashing everything down. Don't really care.
Quite clumsy. Yeah.
I think this is where this is maybe one of the bits for me where the effects do let it down a little bit. It's the eyes that do it. It's like the goggly eyes on this first Godzilla model.
That must have been a design it must have been on purpose.
They're like the eyes of a trout. They're not like evil mega lizard monster eyes. Also, he kind of just runs, and he's not really sort of attacking the town. He's just tripping up on it over and over again. He's just sort of stumbling into everything.
He's just smashing things, going, "Get out me way!"
Yeah.
He's just trucking along in the town.
It does make him feel more like an animal rather than a sentient kind of cool guy that we know from the other media.
And that's what he is, like from like what Godzilla would become. So from like the original like 1953-4 Godzilla, where it is nature's revenge for people using nuclear weapons, effectively. Where the original Godzilla film is like that story is like a horrific thing, and then over time he would become more humanized, I guess, until you have like the films of the 60s and 70s where he's friends with kids and he comes to save people from he comes to save people from other bad monsters or alien invasions or from.
It feels like obviously even the Americanized MonsterVerse movies have got like a weird relationship. They can't quite decide what kind of relationship they have with Godzilla. Obviously in King of the Monsters he's treated like a savior, protector of the human race, and then pretty quick sharp in Godzilla versus Kong he's the opposite.
So it does
so it seems like whatever he's needed for the plot is what he is, essentially. It's not like
but you're right, in this one, like Luke says, it is very much like this animal has come out of the sea, and it's right now it's kind of aimlessly just trucking along, so it's forced all the water and the boats out of the river, and then it's just that's another of those things, Ben, where it's like, oh well, even if it comes out of the water, it won't sustain its own weight, so it'll just crush itself under its weight and die, so it'll be fine. And then a moment later it's out and it's crawling along.
There are so many moments like that where don't worry, it'll be fine because this will happen or that'll happen. No, Godzilla, freak of nature. They do keep mentioning that they've got no data because they bring in like various different experts, marine life experts, zoologists and stuff.
What do you think? I don't know.
What do you think? Well, I'm not going to say anything because it will affect my.
They affect their careers, and that's it, isn't it? They bring all these experts in, and basically they're all paralyzed by. Well, I'm not going to make you a prediction because I've got no data, and I'm not going to put my reputation on the line. If I'm wrong, they want to be the Michael Fish of Godzilla.
Yeah,
my credibility would be down the pan if I go, it's just a big old iguana. It'll be fine. Just get him back in the river, lure him in there with a bit of fish or something. It'll be fine. Nope.
But they don't do that, which I guess is part of the reason why then Higuchi just he goes off and he starts to just gather on purpose, and it's after Godzilla's gone back into the water, but they start to gather the people who they know are very knowledgeable from all these different fields of science and military and civil service and all those things, but they find people who are recognized as being like rebels and outcasts because these are people who don't have a good reputation to ruin, but will actually go for it with this, with the experimentation.
One of those people, I noticed that I recognize a few of the actors and that from various other films. But one of the guys in that crew, I can't remember what they call themselves, is Shinya Tsukamoto. He's a director of Tetsuo the Iron Man and Bullet Ballet and a few various bits and pieces. I recognize a couple of people. There's the guy who's in a couple of Sion Sono's films. Why Don't You Play Me in Hell? That's about it, really. So a lot of actors, but I imagine there's more sort of famous people in there that we just don't know. But
probably are household names in Japan. I think the Japanese version of the Academy. I think this one, best movie, best director.
Okay, yeah.
So there'll be big names. I imagine. Wow. We just don't see them.
Have any of these actors appeared in previous? What was because this is something that I'm not an expert on, so I understand that this is another like a reboot of the franchise, essentially, isn't it? A franchise where there've been 30 odd Japanese Godzilla movies.
I think Godzilla is the longest running movie franchise in terms of entries. I think there are more Godzilla films than there are Bond movies, especially if you count the American MonsterVerse ones.
So it says this is the 31st installment of the Godzilla franchise, the 29th Godzilla film produced by Toho Pictures, and it's their third reboot of the franchise.
Yeah.
And the first film in the franchise is Reiwa period. So I think Reiwa is the current era of Japanese's of Japan's official calendar. So it began on May 2019. So
So Shin Godzilla is a new continuity for them, I think, and as you say, Ben, they've had a couple. So there's the original Godzilla that eventually would become people's friends and so on. There is a point in that series, I think, when it is rebooted and he becomes a villain again. I think the 90s, sort of late 80s, early 90s, when that comes about, where he's kind of a villain, then comes back and again sort of fights other monsters. There is a point where it's linked back to King of the Monsters, the the MonsterVerse one, where he gets like supercharged. The only difference being that original Godzilla melts down, and then the baby Godzilla that you brought a picture up of earlier on grows into a fully grown Godzilla and is the new one. But yeah, they've had a number of continuities. I think the last continuity ended with Godzilla Final Wars, which, if you watch just one of the newer Japanese ones, that is a round the world tour de force. All the monsters that have been in the previous series, including the Matthew Broderick American Godzilla,
really,
is in it very briefly. Yeah, regular Godzilla smashes him into the Sydney Opera House and blows him up. As a quick aside on this one, you'll have to look up the actual story, but there is a story of when the Sony Pictures guys did the first American take of Godzilla for the the 2000 film, and they showed it to the studio heads at Toho. So they brought it and they had it so say like the model of the Godzilla they were going to do, a statue, almost like that Cristiano Ronaldo statue, underneath like a like a cloth, and they were going to unveil it to them. Yeah. And the stories are that they pulled the sheet off and unveiled the Godzilla statue, what they sent it to, and apparently there was silence in the room for over a minute. Just these people just like,
what the fuck?
Yeah, and obviously we've done these episodes. You know how uncomfortable dead air time is. Imagine that sat there for a minute in absolute silence before they said like, "Oh, maybe come back tomorrow and we'll have some comments about it then." And eventually it went
committed
on
to it then.
Yeah, eventually it went on ahead, and probably to do with money and contracts and so on. But apparently they hated it. They hated it a lot. But
I can't remember what it
they're
looks
very
like.
polite.
Just trying
it's
to
just
find.
Got like a big
very
rectangular
iguana-y
head, very iguana-y, very sort of just a big rectangular head, big old chin, Bruce Forsyth.
Yeah,
that's kind of all I remember. And the body was quite slight, wasn't it? So the head was big, but the body was quite long and
it looks more
slim.
Yeah, more Jurassic Parky.
I tell you what, though, he looked good in cartoon form. I always thought.
Yeah,
I don't know if you
the
guys
animated
ever saw
series that came afterwards, it used to be on it used to be serialized on like breakfast TV, like they used to do a few minutes a day.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it, and it had more of a style where in animated form it looked like it was a stylized, a design choice rather than in the film where it just looked a bit clunky and wrong.
My favorite Godzilla, and apologies for anyone on the audio version, but for the sound version, I love 60s, 70s Godzilla. Look at his eyes here. Yeah, friendly he looks.
Oh yeah,
he's hella friendly. He looks.
Is that the
he's
one?
Got kind of little frog head.
In the Kong vs Godzilla, I saw a clip of Godzilla shoving a tree, King Kong shoving a tree in Godzilla's mouth.
Oh yeah.
Is that King Kong?
That's
that Godzilla?
slightly that one's a slightly earlier one, and then it became this one in years that come by. This is classic, like Godzilla versus Megalon, destroy all monsters, terror of Mechagodzilla era Godzilla. And those are some quality outings where he has. We talk about Godzilla versus Megalon, where the vengeful people of Seatopia have unleashed their god Megalon to take revenge on the people of Earth. And Gigan comes from space to team up with him, and Godzilla's he's getting double teamed. It's 2 against 1. It's not fair. So the robot Jet Jaguar programs himself to grow and becomes giant, so they can fight against him. There's a Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode on it. So good. But this isn't your daddy's Godzilla. In Shin Godzilla, this is the big horrible one that's going along the floor. we see him evolve in the first instance, right? So he's coming along, the little arms come out, and he stands up straight for the first time, just as the Japanese military have sent their helicopters. And again, politically, this is difficult because I imagine they reference this. There are certain rules they have to follow as the result of post-war treaties, right? They have to have certain things to legally be able to deploy the military, but they eventually declare the appropriate emergency, and they have to act first before they're allowed to ask the US for any support. So they send out these helicopters, and they are lined up with Godzilla, who has just stood up for the first time, and they're preparing to fire, but then they see that some people haven't evacuated yet, so they have to stop and not fire because there's a huge focus on the safety of people, right?
Yeah, and again, it's all about the red tape and the government red tape that they need to pass through before they can do pretty much anything, and how many people need to authorize certain things. There's like this chain of command, isn't there, which keeps feeding back to the Prime Minister, who needs to give things the okay or the no okay. And to be fair, there are a few moments where I thought, oh, he's just going to say fire anyway, but he does stop them. So, he's got his head screwed on.
He does. And again, this is one of these moments when I'm watching this saying, wouldn't happen here, we'd all be dead. They'd have blown us all up.
Yeah.
Oh, just murder him, mate. Will London be okay? Well, if you blow him up now, you will cause a bit. London probably. Oh, do it.
Do it. Be all right, won't it? Yeah, do it. Are we in a bunker? Yep, do it.
Yeah, but this Prime Minister doesn't, and he's probably right to, because they're not in an actual fight with Godzilla right now, and he goes off back into the sea and disappears.
So he goes back into the sea because he overheats. Is that right?
Yeah, he used up all his energy evolving.
Yeah.
It's like when if you've been battling with your Pidgeotto for a while, and he's he hits that level and he evolves, you still need to get him back to the Pokemon Center to recover him before you can. He's not going to get a full heal from that. So he goes to have a little rest.
How long after it goes back into the sea until it comes back? How much time goes by? I can't really.
It's a matter of days, right? Because this is when they're getting all of the first initial reaction, and they're starting to be able to formulate plans. And this is also when when Kyoko first turns up from the US Embassy and points out that they can cooperate on it and they can work on these things together and they can share resources. And she pairs up with Higuchi because the actual Prime Minister's aide, whose name is Hideaki Akasaka, he doesn't want to team up with her. He's not going to work well, so he's suggested that she works with Higuchi instead. So this is where you get this international involvement here.
Team with the US, like the US forces are in Japan, aren't they? It's not like they're coming over from the US. They're already in Japan.
I think Kyoko is like a special envoy, so she's American Japanese, but primarily she is an employee of the US government, because there's insinuations that she has designs on being the president before she's 40.
Oh yeah, the president of America.
Yes.
Yeah,
but she mentions a few times Japan is her grandmother's country. She does speak Japanese, but it's a language that she's learned, because again, there's another section when she says, "Oh, I'm not as used to speaking in formal form. Do you mind if we speak informally?" While they're going through some plans pretty quickly. So she is American Japanese. She lives in America. She's a US citizen and works for the US government, but obviously has Japanese heritage.
Yeah. So she's the one who says there's a zoologist. That boat, I think, it's that boat that was empty.
The boat in the beginning
belongs to Goro Maki, who's kind of was studying Godzilla before anyone else cared, or he was investigating this stuff before anything else. And I think this is at the time where we only find out that those pesky Americans, they've been dumping nuclear waste in the sea, haven't they?
and something's been feeding on it, which is what they now believe to have created a Godzilla, which is why they have an interest in fixing it.
And is it around about now that they decide to name him Godzilla, and the media are talking about him as well?
She brings the fact that that they introduce as Godzilla first, and then he notices that Godzilla was an American name that the scientist gave to him, but he also wrote it down in Japanese as Gojira, which he mentions is like the new god or something along those lines, right?
Yeah,
it's a new god. Yep.
So Goramaki, they also get this big. It looks like so a big like A3 piece of paper, and it's covered in. Do you remember like when you were kids and you used to get little spirals?
Spirograph.
Spirograph. It looks like he'd been at it with a load of spirograph pens, red and blue and stuff.
He'd been out on his boat on this spirograph.
I can't make sense of this. I can. It's a load of spirographs. Classic.
Should go back and tell my mum. Yeah, I'm making
nonsense.
plans for beating Godzillas.
I don't think anyone understands it initially, though, and rightfully so.
It's not for a while before we get to understand this, and again, because it's so hard to look at this chronologically, eventually they do work out with a combination of the German like science experts lending them their supercomputers and working out that there's some origami folded like a crane on Goro's desk. They work out that it's a puzzle folded together, because this is a scientist who's pig sick of it, doesn't he? Because he decided he hates people after all, because his wife died of radiation sickness, and he hates people who use nuclear power or would stand for nuclear weapons. So basically he has all this stuff, and he's found Godzilla, and he disappears. I assume he's killed himself on his boat, I guess, or has just gone, or at least faked his death and disappeared. And he leaves his encrypted research with a note that says, "Do what you want. Either fix it or don't."
Yeah. I don't think they realised the origami stuff just yet. I think
it's much later, but it's so hard to weave it in the right place, right? Because all these threads go along at the same time.
Yeah. Also, I mean, so you just fold the paper in different ways and it makes words?
I think it makes more sense. The lines and the connections between them become more evident if you folded the paper in the right way. But when it's flat.
How do you choose how to fold it?
It's like that thing that you used to do in school. Probably not me, but with the answers and the little what is that thing even called?
I can't remember what it's called.
And the answer is always you're a prick.
Yeah. I need 1, 2. Oh, choose a number of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Oh, choose a color. Red. Oh, it means I have to punch you in the face now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You like?
No, try again. It's not. Try it again. It's not always a punch in the face. Oh, it's kicking the balls this time, though.
Yeah, that's a pretty extreme version. I think mine was pretty tedious. Something like, it says here, you like chips. Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, I do. That's right.
You went to a nicer school than I did, Ben.
Yeah. Or just full of idiots. That's all it was. You like chips? I do like chips. Yeah. See you later. Bye.
It's like in high school, if someone wipes a dandelion on you and it goes, it means you are going to wet the bed. I don't want that kind of pressure.
Did you guys ever do that thing where you hold a buttercup under someone's chin? Say,
you like butter? Yeah, who doesn't? That's why everyone's chin lights up yellow.
Turns out you don't like butter. What?
Is that you're radioactive?
This buttercup knows me better than I know myself.
Yeah, someone does it on a cloudy day. You get home, no butter for me on my sandwiches from this day forward, mother. I do not like butter.
The driest sandwiches possible, please.
Butter is one of the best. I think it was in Parks and Rec where Chris Pratt realizes that all of his favorite foods have butter on it, and then he realizes that butter is his favorite food. It's great food. So Godzilla attacks a second time. He's like twice the size or something now. He's got his back spikes. I think there's an actual name for those.
Dorsal fins.
Dorsal fins. Yeah. They look more like back spikes.
Back spikes.
Back spikes. But he looks
and
a lot more Godzilla-y now, right?
Yeah, he looks a lot more Godzilla-y, but like kind of horrible, I guess. Like, I mean, he's never looked particularly lovely, but he looks a lot more like.
Yeah.
How can you describe him? Like a crusty old turd.
He's not like the friendly Godzilla we've been talking about. He's like a mean Godzilla. He's the meanest of all the Godzillas. I think
He's ever so mean.
Face.
He's and like. And in terms of like destructive capabilities, it's like off the charts.
Well, he hasn't even unleashed them yet. So right now he comes out of the sea, and basically now the military do mobilize and say, right, this is the line. He cannot cross this river into the main part of Tokyo because they've established he's radioactive. And if he's been eating radioactive material and he comes to try and eat a power station, then it will be devastating. So he's walking away, and they're setting up all of their military defenses, right? So they have helicopters, they have planes in the air, they've got like a whole wall of tanks, and this is where we have a big action beat of getting ready for like the ultimate battle against him. That's like a really sustained military operation. And
yeah, the music really takes a turn here as well. Like, it turns into like really guitar driven. Like, trying to get everyone pumped up. Come on, Godzilla, you ain't got a chance against us. But
he's still got kind of googly eyes. I'm just looking at pictures now. I mean, they're still the same size, I think, because they're like much smaller in comparison.
Yeah,
and they're less googly.
Evolved,
they look more like psychopathic kind of. I'm going to stab you when you're not looking eyes.
Do you know what? Yeah. He does come across as a bit of a psycho because his eyes are tiny. Well, sort of tiny and sort of there's something weird about them. But he stands still a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And when he stands
like
still,
it's
almost like he's something about him is a bit like Michael Myers.
Oh, you're a wrestling fan, Ben. He's like the Undertaker, and people go and give him a punch and he doesn't even flinch. He's like that, but against helicopters.
Sits up. Does that sit up straight from there? Yeah.
Yeah, because he's basically, we know that Godzilla evolves, and while he's been underwater, it would appear he's made his way to evolve to be invincible as best he can. Because we start with helicopters, and they use and all the weapons and the tanks and the names of the vehicles appear in Japanese and very quickly flash up in English on the screen as well. So, like, they're really cataloging this stuff, but they fire their weapons like right in his face and it doesn't do anything, and then they fire a bigger gun in the face and it doesn't do anything, and then they really go for it and they're literally blasting all the missiles, blasting all the tanks, and they're really getting him. They're just like a big explosion around his head.
There was a bit where they need like permission from the Prime Minister to pretty much use every different type of weapon, and at the end, and after about 3 or 4 times, he just goes, I give you permission to use any type of weapon. Just stop asking me. Just use any weapon you want. Yeah. And then, is this when the US turn up as well?
This is after they've done that. They've basically done all. They've blasted everything they've got, and he's basically carried on walking. In the last laser shot, he just like knocked the bridge over and started crushing the tanks, and he's gone through their line of defense. And then they say, okay, right, now we've acted, the US are allowed to come and support us. And they've already got like it's an important one when they bring out the stealth bombers. Because the stealth bombers have come out, and it started to go dark, and they dropped their bombs on him, and their bombs actually seem effective. They must be more powerful or something like that, and they do appear to make him bleed, and he like actually reacts, whereas he's been stoic.
Do you bleed, Godzilla?
Yeah,
he does, but he's not a fan of being made to bleed because he kicks off.
You made me bleed my own blood.
So this is where it really kicks off, right? Is this the bit where he annihilates everything?
Yeah, so this is where they've done this, and then of note, I guess, in the film, the Prime Minister has said, "Oh, the Americans are about to attack," and they say to him, "Well, you should move to another location that will be safer." And he's like, "Oh no, I have to stay. I have to stay to oversee this. I can't be seen to abandon the people." Oh no, you've got to be safe though. Should have really trusted his first instinct, shouldn't he? Because he gets in the helicopter, and the American bombs provoke Godzilla to go bloody berserk, and not just in the traditional way that we're used to seeing. So he begins with like vomit up a load of napalm that like explodes masses of the city.
It's crazy. So his mouth opens sort of like almost like a predator. Like it's a bit. It opens and sort of his jaw splits in two. Isn't that right?
Yeah, he does like a predator or Blade 2's. He Blade 2's his bottom lip, and he spits out all of this like almost liquid that then explodes into a fiery explosion, and then refines it into the traditional Godzilla beam.
Yeah, and then back, and it does go back to that napalm stuff afterwards. So it's almost like that's what comes out first. That's the first level of Godzilla beam, and then it just when it's been fired long enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just wipes out everything. It's just got such a range as well, such a ridiculously long range.
Yeah, it obliterates the city, doesn't it? So not only does the fire like coat the streets, but then when it turns the beam, he just swings it across the buildings and just cuts them in half.
So am I right in saying that this isn't like central Tokyo, is it? It's
one of the wards, but I don't know exactly which one it is. But Tokyo is a huge city, but but he's basically made his way across the river, and he's heading into like more and more central Tokyo. I'm not sure whether.
Don't they say at one point it was going to take him however long to get
2 hours to get there?
2 hours to get there at his current rate.
So he's come along some of that way at the very least to where they've gone, because he's gone past where the line of the tanks were. But yeah, he blasts out of his mouth and he shoots down one of the American stealth bombers, and their response to it is, "Oh, it's okay. We'll come back behind him to get our revenge for shooting one of our planes down." But even if they've seen the other Godzilla films, they weren't ready for what he does next.
No.
Yeah, he has like a Pink Floyd LED light show thing going on.
Yeah, it's pretty much like a really dangerous concert where if you get in the way of the laser beams, that's it, you're split. And doesn't afterwards we find out he's got like some sort of radar system as well?
Oh yeah, that's a bit later when he's having a little bit of a sleep, but his radar's still active. Does he just do his Pink Floyd out of the back here, or does he do his tail as well?
I don't think it's the tail yet. I think that's saved for the very end.
But it's almost like that radar must work as a way of him like locking onto things as well, because the fact that he can do that and like pretty much take out all the planes. I know there's loads of them coming out.
And the bombs out of the air. But yeah, it's like bloody Warsaw Illuminations down at Godzilla's place. And
it looks beautiful over there.
Basically, he beams all of the planes out of the sky. He completely wipes them out, and then goes for a little sleep.
Yeah, so he goes for a sleep.
He just stops moving, right?
He just leans against a building.
See, that's
and
creepy
goes
as
a bit
well.
dark.
It's creepy.
That's creepy as well. I don't trust anyone fall asleep. Sometimes when people fall asleep with their eyes open. I mean, I don't think I've ever witnessed it.
Cat does it all the time.
Oh, cat does it all the okay.
It's got quite a big eye, so I don't think her eyelids reach all the way out.
So Ben now doesn't trust your fiance.
But there's something that I just don't trust about that. I'm a bit like, oh yeah, doing that, are you?
Next time that she does it, why don't you see if she has like a Godzilla radar system? Like throw a little paper plane at her and see if like a little beam comes out of her and blasts it.
That's a great idea.
I'll do it. I'll report back.
So he's dormant for a bit. He's sleeping, and this is where like I guess this is quite a meaningful thing on the political side. Effectively, when he was doing his beam, he wipes out the prime minister. So the Minister of Agriculture, completely out of his depth, but because he's like a loyal supporter of the party, gets made the new prime minister.
So that's essentially
doesn't want a bead of it, does he?
It's essentially like if Boris Johnson was wiped out by in a helicopter. I mean, that would be terrible. Well, I'm not saying anything. It'd be like Michael Gove, who also does look like the googly-eyed Godzilla at the start of this movie. It'd be like him taking over, essentially, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, or I don't know, maybe even less so, because it feels like Michael Gove is at least a like member of the cabinet that you would. It feels like it would be like almost like a backbench member of the party, like no major player, just being like, "Oh, I guess you're the prime minister now until this is all over," and
Great.
he doesn't want to be of it because it's another one of those moments that he's being asked to make these huge decisions that are like, well. Basically, you being asked by the UN to secede military and everything power and the decisions, let the UN Council effectively govern the country through this disaster, and then we'll all help you recover and rebuild afterwards. And he kind of looks down at his dinner and is like, noodles have gone soggy. I knew this job was going to be hard.
You hear a record scratch and it goes, yes, that's me. I bet you're probably wondering how I got here. Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
So, where does it go from? So America wants to blow up Japan from here.
Yeah,
right?
like the UN Council led by America, basically their plan is that you cannot. I think there's a little bit of a bit more information because he's dribbling a small amount of radioactivity and there's a little bit of tissue that's coming off him, and they theorize that Godzilla is already this powerful, is going to continue to evolve, and is going to be able to reproduce asexually. So at some point, he's going to unleash more and more Godzillas.
Bloody hell.
So effectively, there is they're going to have to launch a thermonuclear bomb at Japan and just obliterate him because they can't afford for this to happen.
And they look at like the damage it would cause, and it's like monumental, isn't it?
Yeah. But they will give them time to evacuate, and basically you've got a fair amount of time because they've calculated how long it will take him to recover, and basically you've got about a fortnight to try and.
I wouldn't want to risk it though. Would you want to risk it? Like in about a fortnight, it'll be back to full power. It's like whoa.
Yeah.
So
you start stirring after 10 days. You'll be like, not yet. God.
They're trying to get rid of them, but the guys come up with a plan. So the disaster recovery team, they already have the slight plan from the early part of research that they've done, that they could come up with some form of coagulant that would basically react inside his body and shut down the nuclear reactor that's inside him and stop him. And they're continuing with this research, and it gets quite complicated, but by and large, that's the plan, that they're working on this, but they're not going to have, but they feel like there's not going to be enough time. So they are working in the background. They work with the new prime minister to say, you have to find an ally that will help us beg for more time because we're going to run out. And they get France to help advocate for them, I think.
Yeah.
And they work with the Germans to get the computational power to be able to do this. And it's about this disaster team. And they're really trying to scrabble together all the materials. They're like having to like commandeer chemical plants and get cranes because they have this one shot to get their plan to work before they effectively lose control of the country and accept that Japan has another nuclear bomb dropped on it, which again, I guess it's obviously a big deal for any country, but historically, obviously, Japan is thinking, like I've been again to. We went to, on our last visit, we went to like it's like an anti-nuclear, it's like a peace museum. We went to one in Nagasaki and looked around it, and the stuff that we get on the news and stuff, and the stuff that I learned, that you learn in school of history, I'm sorry, we're doing a more upbeat podcast, but I have never been to a place so sad as walking around that museum and like some of the stories and like the letters and the pictures from afterwards. So it's obviously a huge deal, and they want to avoid their country being destroyed again. And it's a very I think it's quite a sentimental moment as these people really try to get their plan to work before the inevitable strike, and they can't do it. So this countdown is ticking down, and if they can't do it, then basically a submarine sits ready to launch this thermonuclear bomb, and they're going to continue with the evacuation, but they're given the time to try and execute their plan when he comes back to life, when he wakes back up.
Yeah. So the plan is to hit him in the shins with some trains, which I think is where the name comes from.
Yeah.
And that'll trip him up. And then they're gonna shove like some straws in his mouth and squirt some of the coagulant into his mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got before it all goes down. The main character, essentially, the Rando Higuchi, does like a sort of pep talk for everybody. He's like, "Look, some of you are all gonna get horribly burned, and it's gonna be horrible and painful, but still do your job, will you?"
Yeah.
And they're all up for it. He is like Bill Pullman, and this is our Independence Day. They're really up for it. It's a good speech.
Yeah.
It's a good speech. So they obviously trains in the shins. Don't they just like bomb some buildings around him as well? So they
they blow up, they demolish the buildings, so they fall on him as well, and he's knocked over. And then as soon as he's down, the cranes are straight in.
Yeah. So I think there's
he bites and shakes around like dog.
Yeah, there's drones as well, and then they come in and drop some bombs, and I think he atomic breaths them, doesn't they?
They basically send in loads of drones to try and make him use up all of his laser power. So he uses as much laser as he can, and then they bring in the trains and the buildings to fall on him. So they're strategically trying to wear him down.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of ending. The way they beat him. Like, it's quite anticlimactic in the sense of how you'd imagine big monster action movies to go. They get the straws in his mouth, and then he just stops moving, right?
he gets back up. So he does it once. He blasts them away. They manage to bring him down again. They do it a second time, and he gets back up. But then he stops, and he turns effectively into stone.
Yeah,
he's kind of frozen.
But even then, would you be convinced? Because he just stood there. Like, at one point, nearly at the end, Rando Higuchi looks out across Tokyo and looks at Godzilla, who's frozen solid, and I'm just like, he's still bloody there. I couldn't sleep at night.
It's a good shot, though, isn't it? Well, it's a nice one of like them standing there, and they have this conversation because Higuchi has been like lauded as like the hero of this moment. And he's like tipped as the film gets on. Someone saying, "Oh, do you want to be the prime minister?" It's like, oh, at first he's like, "Oh, I want to make sure there's a country to be prime minister of first." But then as it comes down to it, Kyoko comes to see him and say, "Oh, it'd be good to have you as the prime minister when I'm president." He's like, "Oh yeah, take your orders, will I?" And then they have that dramatic look at him. I guess it'd be a risk because you think. Your instinct might be, okay, now he's frozen, smash him up with hammers. But then what if you accidentally smash him out of being in stone? Then you've undone it all.
You've unleashed him.
What would you do? Because you couldn't just leave him there. You'd have to go and put some loads of charges and try and blow him up, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But if you explode him out of it, then he's
back. Made a big point about he was irradiating the place as well. I mean, did they say? I think they said like the fallout was like 2 weeks or something, right?
They point out at the end, like it's got a really low half-life, so actually it'll be gone in a few weeks.
Yeah.
So they can use the city again.
Yeah, that's good.
But he's there, and he's there for good. And I guess the thing hanging over them forever is they've said basically the countdown was only delayed. It's not starting. They stopped at like 3 seconds, or a dramatic film amount of time. So basically the international community have said that the countdown has only been paused, it's never stopped, and if he ever wakes up again effectively or moves, then that countdown immediately comes back to life and they have to get rid of him, because the final shot of Godzilla, and we come in on that tail, is that there are little Godzillas literally you can see the mouths and the almost humanoid shapes of Godzilla's about to be spawned off the back
I
of the
wasn't sure
tail.
what that meant. I wasn't sure whether that was just some people that he'd killed with his tail had somehow got all stuck up there, or whether it was supposed to be
I think they were
having some babies.
I think that it was going to be like almost a replacement for humans, because he points out that they talk about it being like the ultimate life form and all of these things, and it surpasses people. So could it be that, I'm not sure if they were going to grow into full Godzillas, or would they have been like a people size Godzillas that he was literally about to spit off into the world?
Wow.
So they've got to be
Godzilla
ready.
ending skeletons. I'm just looking
I'm just looking at pictures of them now. They're like little alien.
Oh yeah, I see.
Things. Yeah.
Yeah, because initially I wasn't sure. Okay, that makes more sense now. I'm seeing them in detail. It was before I was like, it looked like dead bodies, but yeah, we'll see them up close as well. It's like humanoid. They've got the fins as well and little Godzilla mouths. Wow.
Just looking at like images
creepy.
of this Godzilla versus the American MonsterVerse one. This one looks like such a villain. Like he looks like a bad dude compared to the kind of even the American one. He doesn't look like he's kind of not cute, but he doesn't look evil. Like he
smiles in Godzilla versus Kong. He smiles as well.
Yeah. Gives a nice little thumbs up. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so maybe they're like those little ending skeletons, but quite xenomorphy.
Yeah,
almost. They're So basically, they're probably right to want to get rid of him. Although that being said, like the scientist said, at this point, with how powerful he is by only one evolution, are they sure a thermonuclear bomb would get him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's that? Yeah. There we go. That's the end.
Cool. All right. I got some name game for you guys if you're up for it.
Oh, yes.
So the first one is about a country called Japan, and it's plunged into chaos upon the appearance of a lower half of a face.
Shin Godzilla.
Shin Godzilla, correct. Well done. This next one is about a country called Japan that's plunged into chaos upon the appearance of a giant diet.
Slim Godzilla.
Close, but not quite what I've got.
Thin Godzilla.
Thin Godzilla. This next one is about a country called Japan. It's plunged into chaos upon the appearance of someone who used to be something special. Oh, used to be big, something special over there.
Is it Has Been Godzilla?
Has Been Godzilla. Japan has plunged into chaos upon the appearance of a Fear Factory song. I don't know if you're a Fear Factory fan, Andy, but I think Ben will get this.
I reckon Ben's gonna smash this one. I'm not as familiar.
Oh, Fear Factory.
Yeah.
In my head, then I was thinking Fear Factor with Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know who Fear Factory are, but I couldn't name.
Have they got any songs that rhyme with Shin?
Have they?
It's probably like the only song that people would know.
I don't know.
We'll come back to that one.
All of my.
We'll come back to that one. So last one, Japan is plunged into chaos upon the appearance of a giant monster that was inside them the whole time.
In Godzilla.
Built-in Godzilla.
Built-in Godzilla.
The Fear Factory one was Lynchpin Godzilla.
Oh.
Lynchpin.
Oh, Lynchpin. I mean, now I can see
yeah.
There's a list of any Fear Factory, but
that's a cool song. It's probably only on my mind because my friend at work puts it on a lot or talks about it.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. Well done. 5 out of 5. We need to rate the film. I am going to have a hard time rating this one. I will admit. And therefore I will go last.
It's difficult. It's going to be difficult, especially if you've seen all like the other MonsterVerse films the same week. Like it's a completely different.
It's a different kind of film altogether.
Different kettle of fish, mate.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'll get mine in before you guys do because it will colour my rating,
Yeah.
and I think I know where you guys might sit, but I'm not too sure. I think I'm gonna have to go with a ready salted default rating because I'm not too sure if I quite got the joke of it. Like I feel like if I watched it again, I would get more of that thick of it style going from one meeting room to the next. And I will say the bits where Godzilla is wreaking havoc feel a lot more tangible than they do in any other Godzilla style film I've
Yeah.
seen. Like the destruction feels kind of
True
real.
scale of it,
scary.
the true scale
Yeah.
of the destruction, and like the effect on
Yeah,
civilization is felt and understood.
yeah,
Whereas
and
in the monstrous films, you're just like smashy, smashy.
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, well, dead.
I mean, Andy talking about um, the nuclear bomb thing. I don't know why it didn't even really hit me when I watched it this time. So just talking about it has kind of made me respect it and appreciate it a bit more. But I think I'm going to have to go with my initial feeling around a B minus, but it might be better on repeat viewings once I've
Yeah.
had time to settle with it a bit.
I'd probably go a little bit higher, maybe just a B. I was going to say B plus, but I think maybe just a B, just because yeah, it did affect me. Obviously a very different film from the MonsterVerse films, or even like the other Japanese Godzilla films I've seen. But yeah, it felt like you were kind of on the ground, understanding the effects of absolutely everything that was happening on screen, and a great Godzilla design, I think. Genuinely quite horrific and ridiculous at the same time. Yeah, so standard B, I think.
Oh,
Cool.
there we go. For me, I think we'll do the good and the bad. I think it's a really thoughtful film, and I think I'm with you, Luke. I think with more watches as well, there are other bits that might sink in. I think for in terms of effectiveness and in terms of how much you care about the people in Godzilla films, I think on paper, you look at Shin Godzilla and think, oh, there's a lot of the political stuff, and people will always tell you, like, when you look at the modern Godzillas, effectively, oh, the worst bit is the bit with the people, and the backgrounds of the people. What I want to do is see the monsters fight, and I genuinely cared about the stuff that the people were doing in this one. Like, I found it really engaging, and I really enjoyed, and I wanted them to do their plan. Like when it came to the bit with them trying to execute the final bit, like there was a tension there, and like I really want this to actually work. Which, bearing in mind, I'm used to watching films where Godzilla is the goodie. Like it's not a usual watch of a Godzilla film to think, oh, I want them to get him, and be able to stop him. So it's a really strange thing, and I really like what they did with the creature design. And actually, for a creature that is like all this, all these years old and 30 odd films deep, they found a different thing to do with it and a different way to evolve the creature. I found that really cool. The downsides of it, I guess, it's not a traditional, not traditional isn't the right word because it is closer to original Godzilla than a lot of the newer ones, but it's not what you would get from half of the course for a Godzilla film, which it might be what you're coming to it for. And if you want to see monsters fight each other, you're not going to get it. And I would have to mark it down a little for maybe effects in the early days. That googly eye Godzilla does take you out of it a little bit in the early frames. Like I imagine the film with this drama and this depth, but with an effects budget of the recent Kong versus Godzilla, and you can only imagine what they could do with it. But I really love this film. I'm going to give it an A minus, even with the ding for the effects budget that they had. I feel like I could watch this again quite soon. Maybe I'll try the American dub and see how it holds up and what the differences are, while this one's still quite fresh in my mind.
Good. Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff.
So I think next week we have a special guest on. Is that right?
Yeah. So next week we're going to be doing From Beyond, which is directed by...
Still good.
That's it. I knew that. So yeah, Jed Shepard's going to be joining us, the writer of 2020's big hitter, Host, the Shudder exclusive Zoom horror movie. So yeah, Jed's going to join us next week for that, which should be fun.
Sweet. Yeah, I don't know what. I just remembered. I said I was going to have some reviews to read out, and I don't have any here.
That will just keep people coming back next week. If we just go, we'll have them next week. Then people will keep coming back expecting them, and if we haven't got them, then they'll have to come back the week after that. You know, come on.
Without saying how many you're going to do, you could just say I'm going to do double the amount next week to make up for it.
Well, before you even said that, Andy, I was just about to say I'm going to do triple the reviews that I was going to do when I originally said I was going to do it.
So triple the amount of reviews.
Just make a whole episode about reviews, maybe a whole podcast based on them. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So thanks for listening in. If you enjoyed the show, you can become a patron over at patreon.com/Hawk and Cleaver. Thanks to Kovac Cameron for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Thanks to the listeners. Go join the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors. Thanks to my co-hosts Ben and Andy for being right horror dudes.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Till next time.
Nice one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.